Well, so a very good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much, as usual, for this opportunity. My name is Abdul Karim Ibrahim. I want to very specially welcome all of you to the 2021 Africa Students and Youth Summit. And here at the All Africa Students Union, we are very excited that anytime we call upon you, you join us for this all-important event. Like I mentioned earlier, my name is Abdul Karim Ibrahim. I'm a research and communications coordinator here at the All Africa Students Union. I'm going to be the moderator for this all-important opening session. And we're privileged, as always, to have you join us on this platform. And across the world also, we have a lot of our friends, partners, and student leaders here in Africa and around the world joining us on various media platforms. We're on YouTube, All Africa Students Union. We're live also on Facebook at All Africa Students Union. And we'll be very happy to have you join us. And this year, as we have been doing for so long now, this is the 10th All Africa Students Union Summit in respect of students and youth on the continent, among many other things. On an occasion like this, what we do is that we bring together student leaders, development partners, educationists, and policy actors from across the divide with interest in education, with interest in youth, with interest in students as well, to have conversation on some of the very important matters that affect us. As we did last year on the same platform, we because of COVID-19 and the devastations that are brought to all of us across the world, we had conversations on solidarity, on how to build better post-COVID-19. Of course, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still in COVID-19 here in Ghana. We're talking about the wave, the third wave happening here in the country. And in many other places, of course, the COVID-19 scare is still on. If you are a fan of sport, you would notice that the Olympic Games happening currently is without spectators. And that tells you quite clearly the sort of changes that we've all had to can't go through because of COVID-19. And for a second year running, we're holding this all-important summit on a virtual platform without all the opportunities to meet people personally and interact with them and all of that. But of course, that's also symbolic of our own resilience and ability to come up with new ideas and all of that. So we are grateful that despite all of these challenges, you still make time to join us. The theme for the 2021 Africa Students and Youth Summit is that we should act, inspire, and scale up, giving a fair share to end child labor. And this obviously could not have come at a more opportune period than this. As we will get to know from some of our speakers very shortly, child labor is a problem that continues to wreak havoc across the world. And Africa, sub-Saharan Africa more especially, continues to suffer perhaps the most from some of the devastating consequences of child labor. One would think that as children, the most important thing that they must do, and the only thing perhaps they must do, is to just live their lives, go to school, and aspire for all the great things in this world. But that's not the reality for millions of children across the world. Here in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia, in many other places, really. This is the reality, the daily reality of many children on the continent and across the world. And particularly because of COVID-19, also we're learning that this already precarious problem that we have many children across the world in is even getting worse. So we thought it wise that we would have a conversation about it. We'll use our platform to engage the very many people across the world who are doing amazingly well in this area, putting the spotlight on child labor across the world, to come have a conversation and for us together to see how best we can deal with some of these issues. So we're very happy today to have joined us in this opening ceremony.
Recording in progress.
Very affable and of course humanitarian in all sense of it. Dr. Kailash Satyarthi, he is a Nobel laureate, and there's just so much one can say about Dr. Kailash Satyarthi, because the work that he has done in the area of child protection and child labor is one that impresses all of us, one that makes all of us very excited. So we're happy to have him join us right here. And then again, we're also going to be joined subsequently by, they have all joined us in terms of the speech order. That's what I'm talking about. Mr. Nicholas De Heer is Head of Partnerships and Programs, Youth Brigade Foundation here in Ghana. Very happy to have you also join us here today, sir. We're also joined by Mr. Solomon Tesfamariam. He is the Country Director, Plan International Ghana. Very happy to also have you join us right here for this all-important event. So thank you very much for your time. And Ms. Angel Mbuthia is Secretary for the Gender and, of course, International Relations here at the All Africa Students Union. I should also be joining us to behalf of the All Africa Students Union, and especially also the Secretary General, who is unable to join us today for this particular update there. So without wasting any more time on this one, I want to very quickly welcome Dr. Kailash Satyarthi. Like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Kailash is our keynote speaker today, and he is an incredible personality from the very early days as a youth activist. Dr. Kailash Satyarthi has been an inspiration to all of us. He has reduced over 100,000 children trapped in child labor. Of course, they've gotten them out of that very difficult position that they are in and all of that. And one can only imagine, speak about the extent of his reach, looking at over 100,000 children who hitherto were struggling. And he has also led several global movements and is a non-stop campaigner for international justice. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 and has been a champion of the concept of a fair share for the most marginalized children and their families. And we could think of no better person to open this conversation on a fair share in respect of fighting COVID-19 this year at the Africa Students and Youth Summit. And so, Dr. Satyarthi, we're grateful for your time today. And I want to, at this point in time, welcome you to deliver your address for us today. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you, my dear young friend and brother Abdul Karim. I could see the name of my adorable daughter and friend Angel and brother Solomon. Dear friends, I am not a new face for All African Student Union. I have been there before, and most of you are not new for me too. So it's mostly a friendly discussion rather than being a keynote speaker today. Each time when I have an opportunity to be with you, dear young friends in Africa, I feel that I am in the midst of enormous power, enormous potential, and enormous opportunities. Because I recall many incidents. 45 years ago in India, some of us as student activists were fighting against autocracy, dictatorial patterns which were emerging in India. But we were not confined to that only. I recall a day when we were organizing a big march in support of Madiba. We were all demanding his freedom, and we were all raising our voices against apartheid and freedom of African people. And suddenly police came and charged canes on us. We were put to a small prison for a few hours and later were released. But that inspiration also came from my young friends 45 years ago who were fighting for justice and freedom, equality and peace, inspired by Madiba and Soweto. I'm also talking to many of you today who have been the champions and pioneers and led the way to African young people, but also inspired the rest of the world when you stood up and called for fees must fall. And that campaign has been successful. That was not too long. It was a recent thing. I also recall you're another very strong and inspirational movement, with Sasim Ali movement. I also know and met some friends from Nigeria who have led End SARS movement to resist the police atrocity. And their voices did not remain in vain. You have inspired not only the young people of your country in Nigeria, but you have also inspired the rest of the world. I also know that many of you come from Zimbabwe, where you have been on the front lines for democracy and human rights. So I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm sitting here to get inspiration. Remember and recalling all those incidents and your campaigns. I can name many in many countries. Dear friends, but today is also a very important day, when these most compelling and powerful voices, the moral voices with enormous energy and power from ASYS, are being raised for the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, the most exploited children of your region. And that is going to set an example. Those fighters, young students in Africa, who have a proven record to fight and win apartheid, injustices, atrocities, the world is going to be inspired and learn from your call which you are going to give today. It's not a matter of celebration for someone like me and for many of you. When you come to know that half of the world's child laborers reside in just one region, and that is sub-Saharan Africa. When we learn that when the world has made so much progress, I'm not talking about this pandemic time, when the world had a commitment that they are going to put an end to child labor by 2025, that commitment came from Sustainable Development Goals. This is the only goal which commits to end all forms of child labor by 2025. But what have we done in the first 4 years after this announcement of SDGs, or 4 years which are before pandemic, preceding to pandemic? The number of child laborers in the world has grown from 152 million to now 160 million. The world has become richer. The world has made so much progress. And that's why I am angry. That why Africans and sub-Saharan Africans have to pay the cost of all this progress which we are making in the world. Are we walking on the backbones of African children? No, dear friends. This is unacceptable. This is intolerable. I always say, and I believe deeply, that Africa is mirror of the world. If something is going wrong in the world, that would be reflected in Africa. But if world is doing wrongs and sins in the form of injustices and exploitation, African marginalized people, and particularly children and women, have to bear the cost of it. Africa is the mother of civilization. I have traveled across Africa and I have been meeting very ordinary people in the remotest areas in sub-Saharan Africa, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Sudan, up to the people who are sitting, who came from Europe and America and exploiting minerals, exploiting water, exploiting jungles, and more importantly, exploiting people, their innocence, and their moral wealth. That is intolerable. That cannot be accepted. When half of the world's child laborers, as I said, come from West Africa, come from Sub-Saharan Africa, you know that 22 men, I underline man, that does not include women, 22 men, rich men in the world have more global wealth than the cumulative wealth of all African women. Africa has more than 17% of world's population. But the wealth share is less than 2% or approximately 2%. And that makes our children more vulnerable. That makes our children to be pushed into child labor and slavery and trafficking. I met many of the young girls and boys who were forced to sell their bodies in Africa, in India, in Latin America. And when a 12, 13-year-old girl says that, sir, I have been sold in lesser price than a cattle, than a buffalo, than a cow, I feel ashamed. Everybody must feel ashamed. When the group of children having scars and injuries on their bodies in Ivory Coast, in remote areas of Ivory Coast, and many of them have been trafficked from the neighboring countries to work in cocoa farms, say that we have never seen chocolate, we have never tasted chocolate. Billions of dollars are being made out of their childhood, freedom, education. Dear friends, I have full faith in the youth of the world, and particularly African youth. Because you are born with the DNA of resilience, born with the DNA of courage. You are the sons and daughters of Madiba and many others who have sacrificed their lives either in jails or beaten to death, killed mercilessly for the cost of freedom and justice. Nobody can preach you. Those who come and tell you and try to guide you and control you, they exploit your wealth. You have to stand up, dear friends, and you should be in the last generation which is facing this exploitation and injustice, global injustice and global exploitation. You should be the first generation who can say with pride that we are also human beings, as good, as equal as an American, as an African, as an Asian, as an Latin American or any other rich African is. who is going to do, dear friends? You are going to do this. When I'm talking about Africa today, it does not mean that any of the world problem can be solved in isolation. You have to emerge as the global leaders, young friends. I know my son Peter. When I met him first, I saw that spark in his eyes. When I met my daughter Angel for the first time, I saw that bright eyes filled with hope, filled with conviction. And I see many of you, dear friends, with that prism of hope. You present hope of the world. Today, every day, not now, I would say, just 4 years before the pandemic, within the first 4 pre-pandemic years, every day 10,000 children have been pushed into child labor. And now the new estimates say that during this pandemic time, by 2025, the number would be almost doubled. We presume, on the basis of all these estimates, that 20 million young children, boys and girls, are pushed into child labor every day. But on that very day, how would you allow it to happen? How can you tolerate it to happen that 17 new billionaires are created in the world? And that's why you have to show your leadership. You have to demonstrate your leadership. The leadership is inside you. You need not to look for change outside. You need not to look for champions and outside and motivators and inspirators and teachers who are going to change your destiny. No. You are your destiny. You are the change. You are going to do it. When I was a young person, at very early age, I realized that children of my age are exploited. They are enslaved. They are working at the cost of their freedom in childhood and education. I was angry. And I am still angry. I can't allow it to happen. And that change came from inside. Because the change was there already. Change for dignity of every child. Change for freedom of every child. And that is possible. When I started this movement against child slavery and child labor 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago, many people laughed at me in my country because it wasn't a non-issue. It was a serious problem though, but people did not consider it as an issue or as a problem. They thought that it was the part of life. For years and years, as they thought that women are subdued to man, they are born to serve man. Same thing was with apartheid. Same thing was the Indian caste discrimination. Happy to say that not only because of me, it's because of the inherent, the inbuilt quest for freedom among the young people and their power has been able to make it not only an issue, but nobody can ignore the issue of child labor in the world today. Dear friends, when we say 160 million children are working as child laborers, what is their fault? Because they are born in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, half of them. They are born in the families which are discriminated and marginalized. When we talk of child labor, we talk of one of the biggest crimes against humanity. We talk of the complete denial of human rights and systemic discrimination, including racial discrimination. why half of these children come from sub-Saharan Africa, child laborers. An American company, an European company cannot employ child labor in their own country, but they can easily exploit children in India, in Africa, in Latin America. What is this? If not the age-old mindset of racial discrimination, this is there. It's not just poverty. Because world is not so poor. Only 4.5 day or 4 day of global military expenditure can ensure education for every child. What the Europeans spend on mineral waters, 1/5 or 1/6 of it can ensure education for every child. So world is not so poor. What we have, the poverty of respect for dignity of marginalized people, the poverty of compassion, the poverty of respect for human freedom. And that's why I am angry, and I strongly feel that this is unacceptable. We have to make all kind of injustice and all kind of discrimination a history. If we have to pay the tribute to Madiba, if we have to pay tribute to everyone who fought and sacrificed their life for freedom and justice, then we cannot simply sit and talk and make all efforts for our very personal career making or money making. Of course, you have to build your careers, but you cannot leave this very important task which history has given to you. And since we are on the crossroads of history after this pandemic, we have to raise our voice. We cannot be the beggars always. That mentality must change. And we have to challenge our politicians. We have to challenge our leaders that we cannot live at the mercy of the rich countries and rich people. It is their obligation. It is their commitment. And it is their responsibility because they have been able to earn huge amount of money from the resources available in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. It is their responsibility to enhance, to increase ODA and make sure that there is a tax justice, make sure that there is a justice in aid and debt, but that is not happening. How long IMF and World Bank will dictate us? We have to work with them, but not as beggars, not as someone who is looking at their mercy. Young friends, I'm addressing you. I said in the beginning that I'm addressing and I'm in the midst of energy and power, light and hope that you represent. And that is why when this campaign, fair share for children, fair share to end child labor, were launched. Initially, it was launched as fair share for children, and later on, considering this year, UN year for eradication of child labor, we know this campaign as the fair share to end child labor. Ending child labor means ending poverty. Every single child laborer is working at the cost of one adult's job, and that adult could be very father or mother of that child. Every child is working at the cost of future opportunities, because the future opportunities are shattered when a child is working at the cost of education. A child is working at the cost of equality. A child laborer can hardly walk side by side with someone who is in a school and living in freedom, enjoying freedom, anywhere in the world. So we have to ensure all these human values. If we have to retain and we have to establish equality in the world, then we have to put an end to child labor. And when we say fair share to end child labor, it is not begging from someone. Fair share in policies. At country level and global level, the most marginalized children must get their fair share because it is their right. Fair share in resources. As I said, in ODA as well as in budgetary allocations at country level, fair share should be ensured. This is our right. And the fair share in social protection. Children must get the fair share in social protection. And dear friends, you can do it. You can always count on me. I am your friend. I am not a guest. I am not a celebrity. Don't consider me as someone who is coming as a Nobel laureate and addressing you. I'm coming as your brother, as your friend. Together, we are going to put an end to this menace of slavery, trafficking, and child labor, not only in African region, but all across the world. I count on you. I count on you. You are the face of the world. You are the future of the world. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Kailash Satyarthi. And Dr. Satyarthi, anytime you speak, it's one of two things for me. I mean, it's as much refreshing as it is distressing. Because, I mean, the problems that you highlight should get everybody worried. But also, one can also take solace in the fact that there's someone who's dedicated over 4 decades to helping fight this problem of child labor. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for this very enlightening keynote address. And I'm sure for all of us, there's a lot that we can learn from this. And the charge that you present to us is one that we accept here at All Africa Students Union, is one that we encourage each and every person watching across the world to also embrace. We're grateful once again, sir, for this very insightful contribution to the summit. I want to move on very quickly now to the next speaker for today. And he's a country director for Plan International Ghana. Plan International has been working in Ghana to support children, particularly the most marginalized, to exercise their rights for over 25 years now. And working in some 637 communities, the majority of which are rural. The work that they have been doing has impacted well over 480,000 lives, children, here in Ghana. And that is an amazing feat that they have achieved. And in Ghana, especially in respect of girls, we know, and according to the evidence also provided by Plan International, among many other institutions, girls suffer so many things, including domestic violence, among other things. And we know that child labor features prominently in the work that they do. And so we're happy to have Mr. Solomon Tesfamariam joining us. He is an experienced country director with a demonstrated history of working in the non-profit organization, management, and that industry more broadly, skilled in capacity building, international development, non-governmental organizations, community development, and program management. And he also has a strong community and social services background because he graduated from the University of Aalborg with that particular bit there. So we're happy to also welcome Mr. Solomon Tesfamariam to join us and to present for us today. Grateful, sir, and thank you very much for your time. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. If you can't hear me, just give me a sign. I'm really honored to be here today with you all. When it comes to an opportunity in engaging and working with young people, I have a lot of desire, energy to be part of it. And even though I got this notice at a very short notice, given the fact that there was a real commitment from young people across all Africa, I just couldn't stop, but reschedule all my plans to be with you today. I think the presenter forgot that I'm also a product of Ghanaian education. I actually went to University of Ghana at Legon, where most of you are and most of you have gone through. So it was actually a combined education between Ghana and Denmark that actually gave me the opportunity to serve children and to be able to do what I've been able to with all of you in the last 25 years. I'm also extremely honored to have the opportunity to engage with such a dedicated man for children, even though he happens to sit in India, Kailash. I'm really honored to be with you here today, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to engage with you on this. And I hope this partnership will last in order for us to serve the neediest children in Africa, as well as the neediest children globally. My focus will actually be, and how I would like to welcome you, is really by giving a bit of feeling in terms of what's really happening in Ghana, because I know that the majority of you are Ghanaians today, but it's also to give exposure to others who are actually working in advocating, in supporting children globally. It's such a great pleasure for me to join you this afternoon to open the 10 African Students and Youth Summit. I know it's held here in Accra, but it's actually a broader engagement with a very clear theme, which is to act, to inspire, and to scale up, giving a fair share to end child labor. And what really excites me is that the commitment that I see among many young people really to address one of the worst abuse, exploitation that affects children in our continent. I would like to warmly welcome everyone gathered here for this all-important program led by the youth to seek solutions to a menace on all of us as a society that continue to ignore, but is a ticking time bomb. Giving a fair share to end child labor, that's one of the most important goals in the fight against child labor today. Ghana, our host country, our country, is actually faced with the problem of this sort of young children working in garbage dumps, at sea, in quarries, on cocoa farms, etc. Because these children lack an education, protection, and care, they are often trapped in a working life of hardship. How can we change this? We desperately need more youth-led initiatives like this one to tackle the children away from a life of hardship. When young people voice out, we know from experience globally that there is a solution. I won't deny that tackling child labor is difficult in the face of persistent problems like poverty and certain deep-rooted cultural norms, and currently with the complexity associated with COVID pandemic, children continue and are at a greater risk. But a child trapped in life of slavery cannot wait for the root causes to be solved. That child needs help, and it's right here and right now. A roadmap to speed up a ban on the worst forms of child labor is an important step. I'm appealing through all of you, for all our national governments, civil agencies, NGOs, including multilateral agencies, to do everything in their power to end the worst forms of child labor today. The primary responsibility, however, lies with the government of Ghana, in the case of Ghana, for Togo, in the government of Togo, for all our countries. They have the sole responsibility to support and to help eradicate child labor. They have to implement the ILO Conventions on Child Labor and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Above all, by taking immediate and effective steps to end the worst forms of child labor. Banning child labor requires a broader approach, which requires a collective effort from multinational entities, industries who benefit from the work, to parents who give up these children into such hardship. Dear young people, it's not by chance that I've mentioned the importance of protection in education. For Plan International and for Plan International Ghana, as part of our overall purpose of operation is to safeguard children, especially girls, from all sorts of abuse and exploitation so that they can learn, lead, decide, and thrive. This remains to be our core mandate. Our mandate cannot be fulfilled unless we work with all of you, with all the education that you are getting. We know that you will join organizations like us to really address the main causes of child poverty and abuse against children. In terms of education, we have a number of education programs that tackle the issue of returning out of school children back to formal schools. Children who've actually been forced to drop out of school and possibly go into one form of labor or another have been given the chance to return back to school. Our T14, MG cubed, and I'm sorry about these terminologies, but those are some of the projects that we are running and managing. They've impacted over 18,000 primary, high school, junior high schools out of girls and boys by equipping them with life skills and self-confidence to fulfill lives and to pursue fulfilled lives. This is really the agenda of Plan International Ghana, our contribution in bringing solution to the menace of child labor by ensuring that they can return back to school and they have the opportunity to complete basic and secondary education. The vicious circle of poverty can be broken only when more children go to school. ILO's most recent estimates say there are 215 million child laborers in the world, and I'm sure the number might be much higher. I'm sure Kailash can help us in terms of getting us even the current figures. And there's plenty of evidence that child labor has a negative effect on the school enrollment, on children's achievements at school. Education is the key to a better future. And that is really our commitment for Ghanaian children. And that's the reason why we are investing heavily in our education program. But more, far more is needed. I would like to conclude and welcome this great initiative of giving a fair share to end child labor is one of the most important goals in the fight against child labor. I sincerely hope you will enjoy today and the next 2 days of deliberations and networking. I would like to thank you for your participation, and I wish you all the best to contribute not only today, but for the future generation of many more, millions of more children within our context, within Africa and globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that also very, very insightful contribution to the conversation. We're grateful, Mr. Solomon Tesfamariam. He is the Country Director, Plan International Ghana. Very happy that you're also able to join us here with such very amazing thoughts there for the work that you do here in Ghana. I want to proceed very quickly because of our time to get to Mr. Nicholas De here. He is Head of Partnerships and Programs, Youth Bridge Foundation. And earlier I had that wrong there. And so it was not, and it's not Youth Brigade, it's Youth Bridge Foundation. We're happy that he also joins us today. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a group that is also quite prominent here in Ghana because of the work that they do. Some of our very fine professors were told that have done some work with Youth Bridge Foundation. It's a youth-focused NGO working to equitably harness the potentials of the youth by equipping them with appropriate capacity, platforms, and resources that shall enhance their socioeconomic and mental well-being, and also advocate for inclusion and responsiveness to youth development needs and rights by those responsible for upholding such rights. So we're happy, Mr. Nicholas De here, that you join us today for this. The floor is yours, and you can also present to us what you have for us today. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abdul. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. What a pleasure and what a privilege to be a part of this all-important summit. Unlike the other speakers before me, the Youth Bridge Foundation is participating in the All African Students Summit for the very first time. And what a very impressive theme that you have. We are really, the theme that we see is very much at the heart of what we do, and we are really excited and privileged to be a part of this. To set the background, let me say that we recognize that the preamble to the AU Youth Charter states clearly that Africa's greatest resource is the youth. I mean, Africa has such a huge demography in terms of the youth that any attempt, any measures, any initiatives that serve to protect the future of the youth is absolutely welcome. You know, now, the biggest problem with child labor, as we see it, is that it robs African youth of education. And, you know, I listened intently to Dr. Satyarthi's speech and as well as Mr. Tefamare's speech. And one of the things they both mentioned was education. And let me quote something that one of the prominent leaders, you know, of the African continent said. He said, and I quote, "Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant farmer can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become owner of the mine, and a child of farm workers can become president of a great nation." That is a quote by Madiba, the great Nelson Mandela. So we know that the canker of child labor is simply one thing that takes away education. And education, once you are robbed of education, you are really robbed indeed, because education is what you need to break the cycle of poverty. And so for us as a foundation, as Youth Bridge Foundation, we are really passionate about education. And that's why we're very supportive of this initiative and this conversation that is seeking to address something, a canker that is really attacking education. We as a foundation have been around for the last 15 years. For those of you who may not know us, we are in justice, in governance, but we're also largely in education and mentorship. And we also have a continental platform. We call it the African Youth and Governance Platform. And what we seek to do, in fact, in the last 13 years, what we have sought to do is bring together a convergence of African countries, you know, from Zambia, from Southern, Eastern, Western, Northern Africa, brought them together to discuss issues around governance and to groom them for leadership. So we have actually been able to mentor some of the prominent members of parliament in various countries, you know, around the continent. And so that's on the initiative of our continental platform. But we have also largely been involved in education, and we think that there is opportunity for our institute, our foundation, to partner with like-minded organizations. I mean, I'm excited to hear about what Plan Ghana is doing. I'm excited about what Dr. Satyarthi is also doing. So we are open for that conversation around what we can forge together and do. This year, for our African Youth and Convergence, what we are going to discuss is how we forge a partnership with the diaspora, African youth and the diaspora. We forge a partnership to recover better. We all know what the COVID-19 pandemic has done, you know, to the world. And sadly, the pandemic has actually, if you look at the statistics, it has actually worsened the plight of vulnerable groups like the youth, and even worsened, and made worse the problem of child labor. So we are really passionate about this, and we throw an open invitation to everyone, all the various organizations. We want to partner with you and see how we're able to address some of these challenges. We commend highly the summit and, the leaders and the initiators for a good job done. We think that you have really chosen a theme that is very pertinent and very useful, very relevant to the times, and we truly highly commend you. We don't want the resolutions to end. That's our appeal. We believe that, looking at your theme, we want to be inspired, you want to act. So the action is really, really important. We are hoping that you will go beyond just the talk and then actually act on that. And so once again, congratulations. We at YouthBridge, we are happy to partner with you. Let me share for you our Convergence platform for those of you who may want to join the platform. It's actually taking off on the 25th to the 27th of this month. It's www.aygcconvergence.org. Okay, so Abdul, I'm sure that for all the participants across the many countries that may want to join us, we'll be happy to have you. So congratulations, thank you, and we wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Also, we're grateful for partnering with us this year, and I'm sure this is the beginning of many more amazing things to come between the All Africa Students Union and the YouthBridge Foundation. So thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas De Heer, for that very brief yet insightful speech. At this point, I want to very quickly bring in the host institution, the All Africa Students Union, and we're joined by the Secretary for Gender and International Relations, that's Ms. Angel Mbuthia. Angel is joining us from Kenya. She's unable to be here at this particular moment, but very happy to have you also join us, Angel, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Karim, for moderating this session. Excellencies, Ministers of States, distinguished academics, member associations, students, continental student unions, partners, colleagues, comrades, my fellow speakers, Dr. Kailash and Director Solomon and Nicholas, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome you all to the 10th Africa Students and Youth Summit. Ordinarily, the Secretary General, His Excellency Peter Koji, will do this. Unfortunately, he's absent over the tragic loss of his father. All of us who know Peter, we are aware of his commitment to work and dedication to the All Africa Students Union, but even he needs time to mourn. Traditional funeral arrangements according to the Ghanaian customs are approaching, and as such, he had to take a break. All of us mourn with Peter, our brother and friend, especially in these difficult moments. Peter, stay strong. Your Excellencies, colleagues, friends, and partners, this year's summit follows in the steps of the 2020 edition. For the second year, we have to hold this all-important event without physical contact. As students, this is extremely difficult. Our bonds and solidarity deeply benefit from our ability to engage one another in hearty conversations face-to-face. It is in the firm of grip hands, handshakes, and the warmth of hugs we find solidarity. But as history would remind us, the Student Union is not exactly known for our lack of innovation and resilience. We have done it before against far worse adversities. We did it last year. We will do it again this year. And so we are happy to have you with us every step of the way. Thank you. So the Africa Students and Youth Summit represents an important opportunity for us all to converge annually around some of the most important issues confronting young people in Africa. So the All Africa Students Union takes this opportunity very seriously because despite being the continent with the youngest population in the world, Africa still lags behind greatly in terms of youth participation in governance and development more broadly. We are therefore excited to have our own platform where we get to center the voices of students and young people over matters that concern us. Last year, as a result of the devastation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we put the spotlight on how to build better in solidarity post-pandemic. This year, the focus is on the tragedy of child labor. Child labor has occupied the minds of governments and international development partners for decades. While some progress has been made over the years, the continent still has a lot to do to nip this pervasive problem in the bud. To this end, a summit of this nature is necessary to convene experts in the field to deliberate on challenges associated with child labor and craft appropriate policies regarding institutional and educational support that can create a durable future for these children while emancipating them from poverty traps. So the theme for this year's Africa Students and Youth Summit bears testimony to our unwavering commitment dealing with child labor. Act, inspire, and scale up, giving a fair share to end child labor is a call to action. The theme enjoins us all to do something. For far too long, we have sat so comfortably in our convictions and watched on as millions of children in Africa and around the world suffer under exploitative labor. By this theme, we are challenging ourselves to do something as young leaders. We must make personal and institutional commitments towards ending child labor. We must make it our collective agenda to put child labor at the center of national policy and discussions. We must inspire and scale up the minimal gains made so far. And more importantly, we must give our fair share to end child labor in Africa and across the world. UNICEF estimates that child labor increased by over 8 million children in the last 4 years. It is also estimated that over 160 million children, comprising about 63 million girls and 97 million boys, were engaged in child labor as at 2020. This comes to 1 in every 10 children in the world. This is alarming. In sub-Saharan Africa alone, UNICEF estimates that nearly 17 million children have been condemned to child labor in the last 4 years. The call to act and scale up efforts at fighting child labor could not have come at a better time. Evidently, child labor is a result of a complex web of events and circumstances. Poverty and deepening inequalities account for a great part of the cause of child labor. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has further worsened this situation as millions of people have lost their jobs across the world. In all this, children have become the most vulnerable to the shocks of the pandemic. As a result, a lot of them are being pushed into exploitative labor to fend for themselves or support their guardians. The legacy of this phenomenon is devastating. At their age, children need education and protection from extreme conditions. Physical and psychological development, especially at the early years, are extremely important towards producing functional beings in the society. So at ASYS, we appreciate this fact and are committed to ensuring that children receive the best care and protection against any stress or exploitation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to also appraise you of the work we are doing at the All Africa Students Union. Recently, I was in Accra on a working visit. I spent time with officers at the All Africa Students Union Secretariat, and I must commend them for the amazing work they are doing. This year, the All Africa Students Union introduced a monthly newsletter as part of efforts to catalog the works of the union and to make it available for member unions and other partners. I encourage you all to access the newsletters to keep up with our work at the union. The Research and Communications Unit of the All Africa Students Union is ready to work with you all going forward. As partners and member unions, you are encouraged to share with the team your activities to be incorporated into the newsletters. Together, let us work to provide visibility for our work. Comrades, again, indeed, the year has been a very busy one for the All Africa Students Union, despite the difficulties. The union has been holding a series of webinars and other such important programs over the period. Under the 7 working groups, that is, the education and students' rights, Pan-Africanism and African culture, migration and mobility, environment and climate, gender advocacy, democracy and good governance and capacity building, Several webinar series have been organized to promote discourses on relevant matters affecting young people. Last month, on the Africa Students' Day, I had the honor to join a virtual discussion on student activism organized by the Education and Students' Rights Working Group on the back of the commemoration of the Soweto uprising, where many of our comrades were killed and some assaulted. The union organized a powerful youth-based discussion on student activism on the continent. The Pan-Africanism and African Culture Working Group also had an important conversation on Pan-Africanism and the need to reimagine the ideology within contemporary times as part of activities to commemorate the Africa Union Day. We are happy to always give voice to young people on the continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as part of efforts to also influence policy in education, we have strengthened our research base with the recruitment of young, intelligent officers. The first part of the year's publications are ready and will be made available to members and partners shortly. Just to give you a fair idea, these are some of the works done so far by the working groups. Number one, the Environment and Climate Action Working Group, activists and change makers, why students should be the hope to combat environment and climate change. So the working group is organized to focus on this thematic area. So the capacity building working group is also set to focus on what the fourth industrial revolution means to the youth of Africa, the prospects and opportunities to spur economic growth. Pan-Africanism and Culture Working Group, they'll be organized under the theme of decolonizing education in Africa and why Pan-Africanism can break the jinx. Thirdly, we have the Education and Students' Rights Working Group. Here we are rewriting the third education social contract to create an equitable society for us all. The other one on the Gender and Advocacy Working Group, making universities safe spaces and why fighting gender-based violence is everyone's business. And then lastly, but not least, the Democracy and Good Governance Working Group will be focused on solidifying global action in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the politics of COVID-19 vaccines, and the implications for developing countries. So I should also note, ladies and gentlemen, that currently we have joined hands with the Harvard University and the Global Students Forum on a revolutionary book project. The project will be the first of its kind in the world as we work with colleagues from other continental unions to document student governance in the most comprehensive form ever imagined. As part of this project, we have reached out to member associations to write chapters on their respective unions for the African column. We believe that this project is a game changer for the global student movement. We encourage you all to take it very seriously. We shall keep the rest of the community updated every step of the way. We are incredibly grateful to Dr. Manja Clemensis of Harvard University and Sebastian Berger of the Global Students Forum for this huge opportunity. On the note of this great collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to thank all our friends and partners across the world for their support. Again, a special mention goes to Dr. Kailash Satyarthi for his tremendous support. Dr. Kailash, your work on child labor inspires us immensely. And
all of us really solidarize with him and we sympathize with him. Condolences once again go to him as he continues the process to lay to rest his dad in these very difficult moments. But that will be all for the Center of Social Protection. These are conversations that are happening right away from here, so do well to join. And later, we'll have a presentation of key issues from the group session, and then question and answers with Dr. Kailash Satyarthi. I want to say a very big thank you once again to all of you. My name is Abdul Karim Ibrahim. Keep enjoying, and thank you to all of you across the world who are watching live on our social media platforms, Facebook, All Africa Students Union, and on YouTube also at All Africa Students Union. Thank you very much, and I'm sure we're going to meet sometime again. We're grateful for your time today.
from Kenya, representing Haki Innovate Africa. I'm very excited to be attending this year's All African Student and Youth Summit. At Haki Innovate Africa, we are committed to matters youth and students, and that is why we are happy to be on board.
Hello, Africa. My name is Folabit Lena Nobel, All Africa Student Union Vice President for Central Africa, Steering Committee member of the Global Student Forum. I'm inviting you specially for this year's 10th African Student and Youth Summit organized by the All Africa Student Union. So come prepared with your questions, come with your contributions, because this year we are going to have vital stakeholders, students and policy leaders. So see you on the 22nd and the 23rd of July 2021 at the summit.
Hello, colleague and friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm usually taking humanity from the Republic of Congo, small Congo. I'm currently the president of Association d'étudiants de la faculté des sciences et techniques. I'm incredibly excited to join all African Students Union for this year's Africa Student and Youth Summit. At the Republic of Congo, we are committed to issues of student and youth development. This is why we are happy to be on board. The summit is on the 22nd and 23rd July 2021. See you there. Thank you so much.
Olá, amigos e colegas. Eu sou Erickson Cantier, sou da Guiné-Bissau e sou o presidente da Plataforma Nacional das Associações Acadêmicas do Ensino Médio e Superior da Guiné-Bissau. Estamos felizes por juntar a união de todos os estudantes africanos, a maior organização estudantil da África, nesta 10ª Conferência dos Estudantes e Jovens da África. Estamos engajados no desenvolvimento do setor educativo e dos jovens e, nesse sentido, estamos juntos nesta conferência para celebrarmos e reivindicar juntos os nossos direitos. A conferência vai ser de 22 a 23 de julho deste ano. Até lá encontraremos. Obrigado.
Hi Africa, my name is Ankit from the Global Students Forum. And I'm inviting you to the 10th Africa Students and Youth Summit organized by the All Africa Students Union. This event is promising and enlightening with major stakeholders, students and policy leaders in Africa. The event will be held on the 22nd and 23rd of July. Please come with your questions and contributions, and I look forward to welcoming you there.
Bonjour tout le monde. I am Amilcar Sanatan, Steering Committee member of the Global Student Forum. The 10th Africa Student and Youth Summit, organized by the All Africa Students Union, is an opportunity for all organizations and movements to convene and create a common platform to fight for millions of children who are forced to labor. It is on the 22nd and 23rd of July. Stakeholders at all levels are present. We want diversity of peoples, identities, and perspectives. All of us to defend basic human rights. Ampietro.
Colleagues and friends in Africa, I am happy to be joining the All Africa Students Union at the 10th Students and Youth Summit. It's happening on the 22nd and 23rd of July 2021. I invite you to be part. My name is Michel Kakonde from Zambia and from the Zambia National Students Union. Thank you.
Hello friends and colleagues, my name is Mariam Gamal from Egypt Alexandria University. I am incredibly excited to join the All Africa Student Union for this year's Africa Student and Youth Summit. At Alexandria University, we are committed to issues of student and youth development. This is why we are happy to be on board. The summit is on the 22nd and 23rd July 2021. See you there. Bye-bye.
Kailash. Hello, Doctor.
Hello.
Please, can you hear me?
Good.
Good. It's good to have you. The 10th ASYS 2021. I have with me here Dr. Kailash, and it's going to be a question and answer session. I'm going to say a little bit about Kailash. Dr. Kailash, I know a lot of people have been very curious about him and about his works. And I think we are going to use this session as an opportunity to get to know Doctor and what he's doing and the impact he's making across the globe. And so beginning, I'd like to say something brief about Dr. Kailash. He's an incredible man, as we always know. And from his early days, we believe he has been an active youth activist who has been inspired to reduce over 100,000 children who has been trapped in child labor. He has also led several global movements and as a non-stop campaigner for international justice. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014, which is a great achievement, and has also been a champion of the concept of a fair share, which we have been embarking on recently for the most marginalized children and their families. And we could think of no other greater speaker for this fair share to end child labor than our own Dr. Kailash. You are welcome on board, Dr. Kailash. My name is Hilda.
Thank you, Hilda.
Okay, so I'll begin with the first question. We'd like to know from you, Doctor, why do you think child labor still exists in a world that has so much resources and so much knowledge?
Very good question. Child labor exists because we do not consider children as equal human beings. Especially the children who belong to marginalized sections of society. People thought that they are easy to exploit. They are the cheapest source of labor. They are not able to challenge. They cannot form the trade unions. They cannot go to the court for justice. They cannot go on a strike. They cannot form the trade unions. And they are easy to physically and mentally and sexually exploit in some cases. So children are preferred. That is the pull factor. That is the intention to engage children in child labor. But there is also a push factor. The biggest push factor is that neither the government nor the society has ever given them the fair share. Fair share in education, fair share in healthcare, fair share in protection, that has not been given to them. So children are easy to be pushed into child labor. Normally their parents are poor, illiterate, vulnerable. Many of them are victims of social discrimination, gender discrimination in case of girls. So that becomes the push factor. And that goes on like that. But the biggest problem is that we don't have adequate political will. We don't have adequate social will. That's why it goes on. We are not honest to our children as those who are in power. They largely ignore because children don't have the votes. They are not going to influence the politics. And therefore, the voices of children remain weak. And the advocates who are fighting for their cause, they also remain weak, scattered, they compete with each other and so on. But now, as I see your face, I can feel that many of you who are listening to me are the young advocates, the young people with bright minds and strong hearts, passionate as well as committed. Share at least one of them.
Recording in progress.
Few years ago, we learned that a number of girls have been trafficked from Nepal to work in an Indian circus. They lost contacts with their parents. Some of them had no father, just mothers. And one of the girls somehow escaped. And she told the story to others, and then the parents became very panicked. They came to know that these girls were sexually abused, they were beaten up mercilessly, they were never paid anything, and the parents had no idea where the girls were sold and resold to different circuses. So my colleagues and I decided to go and rescue them physically from the circus. And that was a very, very dangerous operation. I escaped very narrowly. It was just fraction of moment when this mafia. I died several times in a day. It was such a shocking experience.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kailash. I know a lot of youth are listening right now, and a lot of them have passion, so much passion burning in them to advocate for so many several causes. Now, I'd like to find out from you, Doctor, how do you think, or what do you think should be the channel of anger towards injustice for the youth into productive? Okay, so I'll ask the question again. How do you, for the youth that is listening to us right now, what advice would you want to give to the youth pertaining to their channeling of their anger at injustice into something productive?
Yes. So in my opening remarks today, a few hours ago, I have said that you are the source of power, you are the source of energy, you are the most compelling voices. But more importantly, your hearts are much more cleaner than the adult people, because you are not yet polluted as many of us. So if you raise the voice, your voices are going to be the most compelling and most powerful voices against child labor. You can use your social media. You use your social media for many things. Of course, the ASYS must be having a lot of social media presence, and individually, many of you have your own, social media presence, including Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So when you pick up your phone, think of those girls and those boys who are denied their childhood, who are denied their future, and they are working to produce wealth. They are working to produce your clothes, your apparels, your shoes, your chocolates, your footballs, and so many other things. So just think of them. And when you read something in the newspaper or when you see something on television, then feel that they are your sisters, your brothers. And you can make a difference just by using your social media in terms of creating awareness, but also protesting against those kind of situations. You can write to your governments, you can call your local parliament member or politician from any party. But more importantly, you are also a strong or a very powerful consumer. You consume so many things which are made by child laborers. So once you come to know that a company which is using child labor, then you should raise your voice against it. And even before you buy something, as a compassionate and concerned and active, responsible consumer, you can ask the shopkeeper, can you assure that these things are not made by child labor in this situation? Because that child is working at the cost of one adult job. That child is denied education in future. So as a consumer, you can play a very important role and influence the entire pattern of business in your country and globally. Particularly in global supply chains, you can raise these questions. So creating awareness, putting pressure on the politicians, as well as pressure on the companies which are using child labor, you can play an important role. But for that, you have to work in cooperation and collaboration with other like-minded young people. So ASU has national outfits and local outfits in many colleges and universities, also in countries in Africa, I know, and I have met many of them. So as ASU leaders, ASU activists, you can raise this voice as a group, as a powerful African voice, and that you can definitely make a difference.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I mean, I'm relieved to hear such a comment from you. But I would like to follow up again with another question. There have been advocacy concerning child labor, especially in the year 2021. And most youth have raised their voices across the continent, the African continent, to make an impact with respect to this regard. So in this regard, I would like to find out, in terms of government, in terms of policies, in terms of people who can actually help the youth to raise their voices, what can the youth do to attract the attention of such important people in our countries? Because we've had several complaints of young people saying that they raise their voices, they are fighting for a certain cause, but the government is not hearing them out. The policymakers are not hearing them out. The people who matter and the people who can contribute significantly to the change we desire are not helping. So I would like to find out from you, Doctor, what can the youth do to cause or to attract attention to such an advocacy to ensure that all the things we are fighting for is realized?
In addition to what I said, you can definitely identify some politicians, parliament members. If you do some basic research, then you will find that there are some parliament members who speak on behalf of children, women, human rights, civil rights, etc., for justice and so on, equality. So those who are more sensitive and concerned politicians, try to approach them, physically meet them or write to them or call them as a group, because ASU has a strong voice. So as ASU, when you meet such concerned, influential politicians and parliament members, that can help. And you can bring them in your fold, and then you can sensitize them a little more and give more clear agenda. The clear agenda comes out of the Fair Share campaign, that they have to enhance budgetary allocations for education, for healthcare, and for protection of children. And they can raise this voice in the parliament. They can also be asked to give the fair share in social protection for children. There are so many social protection programs in some countries, weak or strong. If they are weak, then you have to advocate for stronger social protection programs with fair share for children. Similarly, in the policies, in some countries you have good laws, but these laws are not properly enforced because adequate attention is not given, adequate accountability is not fixed for the enforcement agencies. So that is equally important, that you can bring that dimension of fair share in policies. So fair share in budgetary allocations, fair share in policies, and fair share in social protection could be your ask for them. We have one activity as the part of fair share campaign is interaction between the survivors and the politicians. So some of the survivors, when you go and meet survivors in some areas, slum areas, or children who are freed from trafficking and child labor, try to collect their life stories and their demands, as well as their hope, their aspirations, and then bring it to the politicians. You can be the best bridge in documenting some of those stories of children, and possibly you can be the bridge in setting up some sort of meetings and interaction between the survivors and the politicians. Similarly, the highly influential voices are the voices of faith leaders from different faiths, Christians or Islam and others. So that looks a little bit awkward, but that is something like untapped, influence, which you can divert or which you can convert for increasing and enhancing the compassion and concern for children through them. So if they speak on behalf of marginalized children and child labor, that can be very helpful. And that is also the part of our activity in the Fair Share campaign. So these kind of activities you can take up as individual and group and ASYS.
Great. Thank you so much, Doctor. We are almost done, all too soon. And Doctor, I'd like to say a big thank you. But before I let you go, I would like to ask you one last question. And that would be, if you could make all world leaders change just one single thing today, what would that be?
I love you. I love you all. This is and my question is that, do you love me as your friend? All of you?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We love you.
Yes. So if we love each other, then I'm always standing by you. And you have to promise that you will stand by this cause of fair share for children and child labor.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was such a pleasant moment with you, and I'm sure our listeners and our followers have learned a lot about this whole advocacy and campaign on child labor today, and I'm sure they have picked quite a few lessons in there. And for those who are watching to learn from you, I'm sure they have things about you. Thank you so much, and
thank you. I have also enjoyed a lot. But when I always say that I'm angry, I also wanted to see you angry. You have to be angry, but your anger should not be converted into any hatred, violence, revenge. It should be translated into new ideas, new actions, which eventually lead towards peace.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was good to have you. We'll see you some other time.
See you.
Bye.
Physically.
Okay.
Thank you.